on this computer. There we go. Okay. So Claudia, take it away. You can unmute yourself.
Okay, I think I got it. I'll read a short passage from one of my favorite writers, Thomas More. This is from what the soul's religion. And then we'll have Jackson play for us to take us into the service. In faith, one leaps. One doesn't study the options. Faith is not the result of willpower mixed with information. Faith is not sentimental self-assurance that everything will turn out right in the end. It is instead trust. Trust that the mysteries which shroud us have meaning.
I see joy, I see peace, I see goodness surrounding me. I see love in every breath I breathe. I see God in everything. I see happiness, I see freedom. I see the beauty that lives in me. I see perfection in what life brings. I see God in everything.
And I say with great gratefulness this morning that we gather here together to share that which we see that is God in everything, that which we share that is God in everything, the way we love that is God in everything. I know that we have chosen a general path together and a singular path alone, and that this speaker and this workshop meet all of those needs because we are all one in spirit. Yes, I see God in everything, in every one of each of us. And so it is.
I see happiness, I see freedom. I see the beauty that lives in me. I see perfection in what life brings. I see God in everything.
Thank you, Jackson. And now I open this service with turning it over to Angelica to introduce our guest speaker today.
Thank you very much, Jackson and Claudia. That was good. So I want to just tell you a little bit about the details about Gregg before I bring him on. So he is the author of one of my favorite books, Callings, Finding and Following an Authentic Life. That book had a lot of meaning for me when I decided to move from the Hawaii church to wherever I was going to go. And I basically did just that. I moved from the Hawaii church moved to the mainland, and then trusted the universe to put me where I was supposed to be, and I went to Vancouver. But this book was rated one of the top 20 career publications by the Workforce Information Group, and he's also written a book called Vital Signs, The Nature and Nurture of Passion. And he is the former behavioral specialist at USA Today and a regular blogger for Psychology Today. And then I read about all the different places he's presented, and I thought, wow, we've got a star with us today. He's presented at Microsoft, the Smithsonian Institution, the EPA, the National Conference on Positive Aging, American Counseling Association, National Career Development Association, our own CSL convention, and lots of others. He's appeared on ABC TV, CNN, NPR, and PBS. And he's a former adjunct professor of journalism at the University of New Mexico, former columnist and reporter for USA Today and the Cincinnati Enquirer, and he's written for the New York Times Magazine, the Washington Post, Omni, Psychology Today, Christian Science Monitor, Fast Company, and many others. And if you're interested in finding about even more about him, his website is www.gregglevoy.com. So this is what I want you to do. I am going to stop this share, and I want you to go up to the top right hand of your screen, your Zoom screen, and I want you to go on speaker view so that you can have the full experience of Gregg LeVoy. So Gregg, thank you so much for being with us. I really appreciate your willingness to be here with us on Zoom. So take it away. You have to unmute yourself.
There we go. All right.
Hey.
Thank you for that generous introduction. I appreciate it. Funny, I just came back from Hawaii a couple of days ago.
Oh, lucky.
Yeah. Which island were you on?
The Big Island.
This was Maui.
But
such a lovely place. A little bit of R&R. Anyway, thanks for the introduction, and good morning, everybody. Good morning.
Good morning.
CSL Eureka folks. Greetings. I'm coming from Santa Cruz, and I'm really delighted to be able to spend some time with you this morning. And as well as in the midst of continued tumultuous times, whether you count that as the last year or the last 4 years, perhaps, or the last 2,000 years, perhaps times have always been tumultuous. And I suppose so, because it all started with a big bang. So perhaps it's always been tumultuous. But speaking of, back in the 90s, I moved from San Francisco to Taos, New Mexico. So if any of you have ever been to Taos, New Mexico, you know what a big departure it is from a place like San Francisco. And I lived there for several years, but I had been at that point a freelance writer for magazines and newspapers for about a decade before I moved to the desert. But as soon as I moved to the desert, work inexplicably dried up. Assignments drained away, editors stopped returning my query letters, and my freelance career simply unraveled. Plus, I ended up on food stamps. But throughout it all, I kept hearing a still small voice telling me that there was something afoot, something that I wasn't going to understand for a while, and that all of this was happening for a reason that reason could not fathom. Okay. And to make a long and excruciating story mercifully short for you, it, among other things, led to the creation of my book Callings. Okay. But in the throes of it, I kept hearing the refrain in my head, trust the universe. Okay. Which is a spiritual adage that on one hand uh, triggered my skepticism, though I understand that doubt is not opposed to faith. It's part of it, okay? And on the other hand, trust the universe has a long and noble lineage, really. Let go and let God, for instance. Trust the process. Have faith, of course. Uh, don't push the river. Thy will be done, okay? Now, flash forward 25 years. During most of the last year, which is a year of both plague and political and cultural unrest, I've been hearing that same refrain in my head. Okay. As frankly, I often do during challenging periods in my own life, but I've been trying to drill down into it a bit more this time around. And I've been wondering, what exactly does that mean to trust the universe? What does that mean? What aspects of the universe are you trusting when and if you say you trust the universe? What aspects of the universe? And is this a skill you can build? Okay. So, for example, when and if you say you trust the universe, are you saying that you trust its benevolence? Okay. The feeling that you're somehow looked after, all right, which is not, I think, something that everybody can say. This notion that the universe has your back is much easier to get behind when life, fate has favored you with, let's say, a loving family or good health, uh, good education, regular paycheck, a favorable race and sexual orientation, things like that. But I think it's considerably harder to get behind when your ration of luck includes, say, having been born into poverty or a war zone or a violent family, or you're a paycheck away from homelessness or you're homeless, right? One of them is likely to fill you with the feeling of paranoia, which is technically the belief that the universe is conspiring against you. And the other is likely to fill you with the feeling of what's called pronoia, which is the belief that the universe is conspiring in your favor. Okay. Now, an interviewer once reportedly asked Albert Einstein, of all the questions you've posed into the mysteries of the universe, Mr. Einstein, what do you think is the most important question to ask? And Albert Einstein reportedly said, is the universe a friendly place or not? Now, I think how you answered that question, just for yourself, is going to impact, if not determine, how your life is going to unfold. You know, how you're going to interpret and respond to the things that happen to you, including events like, the pandemic. It's essentially going to reflect your sort of default position toward life, in a sense, either optimistic or pessimistic, okay, to simplify matters, but I think it comes down to that. And, you might also consider whether you trust that the universe is a meaningful place. Frankly, I think that's an important question as well, because if you do, then whatever happens to you, you're at the very least going to find some meaning and purpose in it. All right, which is, I think, halfway home in itself. So if by friendly, okay, is the universe a friendly place? If by friendly we mean favorably disposed toward, which is really just the dictionary definition of friendly, favorably disposed toward, then I think clearly the universe is a friendly place. Because, I mean, after all, it created you and gave you a habitable planet to live on. and gave us each other. Okay. And since we are capable, individually as well as collectively, since we are capable of love and kindness and empathy, I think it stands to reason that the universe is also composed of those qualities, if nothing else, through us. Okay. But it's one thing to say that the universe has a heart, and I think it's another to feel it and to believe it. All right. To believe that even in your darkest hours, and I would venture to guess most of us, myself included, have had a few of those in the past year, that even so, life is still and perhaps ultimately good and beautiful and generous, right? That even when the bottom falls out, the universe still provides us with ground to land on, earth to land on, people to commiserate with, and a mind that can imagine better days, or at least remember them. Okay. And, frankly, given that each one of us is also a piece of the universe, in other words, it's not just something that's out there somewhere, right? The universe. It's in here. It's us, in a matter of speaking. And since we're each a part of the universe, you might ask whether you yourself are a friendly place. Okay. Do you trust yourself? Do you treat yourself with kindness or judgment or indifference? Some people just think the universe is indifferent. Okay. For that matter, if your internal organs could speak, okay, or that spiritual organ that we call a soul, or for that matter, really the 40 trillion individual bacterial beings that are in each one of our bodies, and with whom we co-evolved, would they say that you're a friendly place? Because after all, you're the universe in which they go about their business. Okay. Would they trust your friendliness, your amicability, your support and empathy for them? Okay. So another example, when you say that you trust the universe, if you say again that you trust the universe, are you saying that you trust it to work in mysterious ways? Which I think it does, though those ways, those mysterious ways are often kind of counter to our own agendas. And though I think it's possible to kind of build your tolerance for mystery and uncertainty and ambiguity, okay, which are all high arts and important skills, I think. It's possible to build your tolerance for mystery by, say, studying the natural world or the human psyche or the creative process or just your own dreams, because all of those, I think, are full of mystery, okay? And studying them can toss us onto a learning curve where we learn how to manage mystery and uncertainty better. Okay. In trusting the universe, are you saying that you trust that life supports growth? Okay, which I think it also apparently does, though I think it's really kind of a shuttling, cycling back and forth between growth and decay and growth and decay and growth. Okay. But what that means is that if you were to stick with any given crisis long enough, including an event like the pandemic, if you were to stick with any given crisis long enough, in other words, ride it out in full consciousness, with all instruments and all receivers kind of turned to the on position, I think it would eventually lead you back, or rather forward, to growth. Okay. Certainly been a lot of decay, if you will, in the pandemic, but there's also been growth. Something actually we'll explore in the workshop later. But the point being that it will eventually, if you stick it out, it will eventually lead you back toward growth, and a crisis will eventually evolve or resolve into what Joseph Campbell, the guy who brought us the hero's journey, calls a directive crisis. Okay, what Gail Sheehy, who wrote the book Passages, calls falling up. Okay, and what the rest of us just call turning lemons into lemonade. Okay, and one of the things that I myself have come to trust, for instance, about life, is the repeating pattern of setbacks setting me up for breakthroughs. Okay, failures leading me to opportunities. Okay, and if you were, for instance, to create, which I did just recently, if you were to create a timeline of the growth spurts in your life, a timeline of the growth spurts, okay, I think you might find, as I did, that they were often preceded by upheaval and certainly accompanied by it, but they were often evoked by periods of upheaval, like this past year, for instance, has done for most of us, all right? When you say you trust the universe, are you just saying you trust that life operates on a like attracts like basis? Okay, in which case, keeping your chin up should set up something like a similar frequency in the world around you, which is really the basis of what's called the law of attraction. Okay, or when you say you trust the universe, if you do, are you really just saying you trust yourself? You trust your own resilience, okay? Your own ability to choose how you're going to respond to whatever the universe throws at you, whatever hits the fan. Maybe that's what we're saying when we say, I trust the universe. So the definition of trusting something is believing in its reliability. Okay, again, dictionary definition. Trusting something means believing in its reliability. So right off the bat, there's a catch here. Because on one hand, the universe is certainly trustworthy, it's reliable. I mean, in the sense that the sun comes up every day, the sun goes down, gravity works, etc. But on the other hand, the universe is famously, predictably unreliable. Okay, I'm thinking of chaos theory, okay, or Murphy's law, or the law of entropy, or if you don't mind me saying so on a Sunday morning, the famous shit that happens. Okay, so saying that you trust the universe has to include trusting that it is reliably chaotic and random. This year has certainly shown us that, almost in extremis. Okay, trusting that it's chaotic and random, which are definitely forces that operate on affairs down here on the home planet, and by extrapolation in the rest of the universe, and in our own lives. So it means trusting really the universe to be itself. Combination of reliable and unreliable, predictable and unpredictable, and that you yourself will probably behave in sort of a similar fashion, being the part of the universe that we are. And this requires a skill, this acceptance of the dual nature of the universe. This requires a skill that I once heard somebody describe as heroism. I would add heroinism, redefined for the modern age. All right. Heroism redefined for the modern age as the ability to tolerate paradox. Okay. In other words, to hold to seemingly contrary ideas or impulses or energies or beliefs inside you at the same time and still retain the ability to function. If not, hang on to your cookies and your marbles and your lunch. Okay. You know, so faith and fear, us and them, heart and head, reliable and unreliable, pick your duality, but to hold the tension and bring them to the bargaining table to hammer out a treaty that's going to serve both of them rather than trying to stuff one or the other under the floorboards. If you remember Edgar Allan Poe's story, The Telltale Heart, you'll know that you can't do that. You can't stuff those kind of alivenesses, energies, forces under the floorboards with impunity, okay? And paradox requires that you bring these opposing forces together to talk to one another, not let them retreat from each other, but bring them together to talk to one another. I remember Tolkien, who wrote The Lord of the Rings, once said, "It doesn't do you any good to leave a dragon out of your calculations if you live near him." Okay. So trusting the universe and finding some meaning and purpose in any particular manifestation of it, such as a pandemic, ultimately, I think requires staying in conversation with the universe, staying in conversation, in correspondence with it. And there's lots of ways of doing that. Dialoguing with the dragons in your life, okay? Asking for dream guidance, all right? Listening to your body, honoring intuitions and synchronicities, okay? Meaningful coincidences, honoring those kind of mysterious events, spending time in the natural world, okay? Meditation, prayer, journaling. Journaling is actually a beautiful way of staying connected to the grander scheme of things. I'm thinking of something that a fellow named Ira Progoff once said. Progoff is like the grandfather of personal journaling in some ways, because he created a system back in the 60s called the Intensive Journaling Process and wrote a book called At a Journal Workshop. And he said that the point of journaling is to go down deeply enough into your own well that you eventually hit the stream that's the source of all the wells, which I just find ravishing all by itself as an idea, but suggests that journaling is a perfect tool for being in conversation with the grander scheme of things, with the bigger picture, with the universe. And also just because, I've been a journalist since I was in high school, just a great way to feel your way through challenging times, to articulate it, to practice things before you take them public. There's so many benefits and healing benefits to journaling. Been plenty of studies on the healing properties of revealing, essentially. In fact, one of my own responses to the pandemic, and specifically to the financial anxiety that it has brought on, is to rearrange my morning schedule so that I am now, in addition to my other morning routines, I am now playing 15 or 20 minutes of piano before coming into the office to work. Okay, I'm bundling in an act of trust into my day, not just an abstract notion of it. So I'm playing the piano for 15 to 20 minutes, partly as a way to demonstrate to myself that I can afford the time to do that. Okay, so an act of trust, not just, a high opinion I have of myself. All right. Um, in fact, really, one of the diagnostics that I use to know whether I'm trusting the universe or not is when I make counterintuitive decisions like that. Okay. When I respond to fear, say, with surrender rather than striving. Okay. Or I choose passion over security sometimes, maybe more than sometimes, when I make the growth choice over the fear choice. All right. Or when I try to allow things to happen rather than always trying to make them happen, make money, make a living, make ends meet, make headway, make a difference, make sense, a little bit more allowing. Um, so the fact is, I think that it's easier to trust the universe when you're doing your part. Okay. So not just being patient, faithful, waiting for the universe to deliver, but being actively patient. All right. As in, God helps those who help themselves. As in, trust Allah, but tie your camel to a post. Okay. As in, luck favors the prepared mind, which is something Louis Pasteur told us. Luck favors the prepared mind. Okay. So ultimately, trusting the universe may be less a practical issue, even a psychological issue, as much as it is, I think, a spiritual issue, a spiritual enterprise. So not necessarily about strategizing better or creating new affirmations or doing behavior mod of some kind, all of which are great ideas. As much as I think it is sometimes sitting respectfully with things as they are. Granted, a high art, okay, but sitting respectfully with things as they are. Um, and letting yourself feel what you feel during a challenging period. Letting yourself feel what you feel without even needing to understand it. No, let's do something about it. And having a certain amount of forbearance for mystery. Okay. Just for uncertainty. All right. So a few more things. Because I think spiritual practice is ultimately the work of creating a connection with whatever's greater than yourself, ourselves, whether that's God or community or the natural world or just your own potential. Because spiritual practice is the work of creating a bond with what's greater than yourself, I think these kinds of practices can help with that connection and that conversation with the universe and help you strike up a mutually friendly rapport with the universe, mutually friendly rapport. All right. Which might begin by answering Einstein's question. Answer Einstein's question for yourself. Is the universe a friendly place or not? And maybe explore a little bit why you think the universe either is or isn't, which again, we'll drill down into just a bit in the webinar. And by the way, that is a very hands-on opportunity. This is not lecture. This is participation, a hands-on opportunity to explore, what your own relationship is to trusting the universe, if not trusting yourself and your own life, and how to build acts of trust into your life to whatever degree that you feel that may be needed, acts of trust. So I hope you'll join us, and I wish each and every one of us great good luck in creating this mutually friendly rapport with the universe, and also just continuing to, as gracefully as we can, navigate our way through these tumultuous but also opportune times. So I hope you'll join us for the webinar. And thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share with you this morning. And thank you so much, Reverend Angelica, for inviting me back. And I look forward to seeing you perhaps this afternoon.
Thank you very much, Greg. That was very good. We appreciate you a lot. And so let me take us into a spiritual mind treatment. So with a grateful heart, I acknowledge that there is something greater than we could possibly ever imagine that is both outside of us and within us. I acknowledge that that something responds to us on every level. And so I declare for each one of us that this week, this year, this life, we allow ourselves to pay more attention. To pay attention to how we're thinking, feeling, how we're being in this world. I declare for each one of us that yes, the universe is a friendly place, and that we experience this friendliness, this divine love in so many ways, that we are living a life of wonder and awe. And I know that regardless of what the past 5 years, the past whatever, the past 14 months, whatever it's been, regardless of all of that, regardless of what we've lost, regardless of what we think we might never have again, regardless of all of that, I know that each one of us has been impelled into this growth experience. And this experience is not about what's out there, but what's inside of each one of us. This is where we really live, in our own minds, in our own hearts. And so I see us moving forward with a sense of joy and a sense of gratitude, a sense of realizing who we are, that in truth, there is only one life. That life is God's life, the universe's life, whatever we want to call it. And that life is the life we are living right now. So with a grateful heart, I release these words, knowing for each of us that we've gleaned something from this talk this morning and from the workshop this afternoon that will help us move forward and see a world that works for everyone. Peaceful, prosperous, healthy, loving. And this is good. It's all good because it's all God. And so it is. So I'm going to move us back into the the PowerPoint for a minute, because I forgot that I wanted us to do Michelle's affirmation before the treatment. So say this with me. Spirit fills me with light, with love, with blessings in each and every moment as I show up in the world. Thank you, Michelle, for writing that treatment.